National Assembly. And the critical stakeholders involved, what are they saying? What are they going to be doing ahead of the 2027 general elections? And of course, the topic precisely is going to be new electoral reforms and growth of Nigeria's democracy, whether these reforms are actually helping Nigeria to make progress or not. We're going to be dealing with these issues today on Political Update. And before we start and introduce our guests, let's get to see the political stories making waves in the course of the week.
The leadership crisis rocking the African Democratic Congress shows no sign of abating as internal wrangling and legal orders have stalled the state congresses. The crisis, which has since fragmented the party into three camps led by former Senate President David Mark, Nafiu Gombe, and a bloc spearheaded by some state ADC chairmen, led to the recent recognition of the Mark-led National Working Committee by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Gombe, accompanied by a rep member from Kogi State, Leke Abejide, and hundreds of supporters, accused the David Mark-led leadership of attempting to hijack the party's leadership in defiance of its constitution and internal process.
I address today, I argue INEC to place my name on the portal requiring by the status quo and surveillance order of the Court of Appeal. This is not just a personal request, it is a plea for the justice, accountability, and to the rule of law, the order and stability within the ADC is not right about the errand. Furthermore, deliberately manipulating of signature, demonstrated a calculated attempt to legitimate and otherwise unlawful transfer of power which witnesses urgent security night and accountability. It is expected for the ADC and relevant authorities to address this breach of disease places.
Youth under the aegis of the coalition of Goodluck Jonathan on Wednesday morning stormed the Abuja office of the ex-president Goodluck Jonathan, brandishing placards and banners with messages calling on former President Goodluck Jonathan to contest the 2027 presidential election. The mammoth crowd, which overflowed from Taraba Close near Tanganyika Street and to IBB Way in Abuja, disrupted early morning traffic, chanting and dancing to popular Nigerian songs. They held placards with various messages urging Jonathan to throw his hat into the ring for the 2027 presidential contest.
Invitation to the former president wanting to say something, wanting to declare. Nigerians have asked us to plead with him to come to the rescue of our nation by declaring interest to contest for the presidency in 2020. Nigerians are asking him to declare now for the 2027 presidential contest.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has expressed deep sorrow over the killing of soldiers during a coordinated terrorist attack on the military formation in Borno State, describing the fallen troops as unforgettable heroes. In a statement issued by President's spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, the President extended condolences to the families of the deceased soldiers and the Nigerian armed forces, urging them to remain resolute despite the loss. While mourning the loss, Tinubu urged military commanders and personnel across all theaters of operations not to be discouraged, but to remain steadfast in the fight against insurgency and banditry. Tinubu further extended his condolences to the government and people of Borno State, reaffirming the federal government's commitment to working with the state to achieve lasting peace. The only son of Nigeria's late former President Muhammadu Buhari, Yusuf Buhari, has declared his intention to contest for the post of House of Representatives in the 2027 general election. Former presidential aide Bashir Ahmad disclosed this in a statement on his X handle. According to him, Yusuf's decision to run for the Sandamu Daura May Adua Katsina State Federal Constituency under the All Progressives Congress comes after due consultation.
You're welcome back. This is still Political Update on Ogun State Television, and I am Simia Tabaru. I told you earlier that we'll be discussing something that has to do with our democracy, whether we are making progress or maybe it's something different from progress that is going on in the country. And we'll find out in the course of the program. I have two gentlemen to join us, but definitely in the studio we have a public affairs analyst who is going to be dissecting these issues with me, Alao Nuruddin. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
In the course of the program, we will be joined by another political strategist who is a politician as well via Zoom. And of course, we'll be kickstarting the conversation right away. There are people that describe the new electoral reforms as being progress made in the Nigerian democracy, especially this Fourth Republic. And there are some that criticize it and say it is just to benefit the ruling parties. I don't know how you react to those reforms generally before we delve into
I want to agree with the opposition that the reform is to benefit the ruling party. Why? Because this is a reform that took almost 2 years before being signed into law, before the president appended his signature. And during the course of that 2 years, there are non-governmental organizations, there are public debate and the rest, and a lot of pundits have their view heard before the president do sign the electoral bill into law. And there are things that were agitated for in the last election by this same opposition body, that maybe there should be an electronic transfer of the results before, IRF and the rest. And I think that was included in the reform. How would someone now say it's a mechanism by the
electronic transmission of results? That's right from real-time transmission.
Real-time, yes, of results.
But that was not what the amendment, the reform says. The reform gives a clause to that, because of course
that in case if it fails, which is likely to, we have maybe Nigeria still have a lot of backsliding in the area of technology, in the area of network availability and the rest. If in case it fails, that's understandable.
But we've heard the telecommunication industry come out to say that they can actually make it work. It's not really going to be, determined.
And don't forget there's a clause in the reform that if in case the returning officer at the polling unit fails to transfer immediately, if there is every mechanism and every opportunity for him to do that, and he fails to do that, there is a penalty, maybe 2 years or something without option of finance. I don't have that in my hand now, but I think that is there for anybody to fall back on, for at least to protect the interest of the people. And the clause is still there as being reformed by Jega and Jonathan, then that people will still be there at the polling unit to monitor the event and everything that happens in the polling unit. So I won't say, when opposition starts saying, I'm not here to speak for the ruling party, but when opposition starts saying it's just a way or it's a plan for the ruling party to rig the coming 2027 election, I will say how.
Okay.
Because it's something that...
Is that not a valid concern, looking at how elections are being conducted over the years? Is that not valid to say that, maybe the reason they are doing it? Of course, we understand that technologically we are not there. Even those in advanced countries that actually make use of electronic voting, they still have substitutes.
Yes.
Because technology is not perfect
Yes,
anywhere in the
and
world.
exactly.
So apart from that, the fear of not supporting that real-time transmission, according to the opposition, is it not valid to an extent, looking at the realities of elections?
When you make a law, you have to give room to substitute. There are certain laws that you don't make it all round sacrosanct, that you don't cut it on stone. Doing that might later backfire. That okay, if there's no electronic or instant electronic transmission, what is the substitute? That is what we are discussing here now. And the substitute is that we go with the manual that we have in existence before. And the manual is that what we have compute together at the polling unit. Who is going to? Yes, who is going to? We have been there, APC, how do we call them, the representatives of APC and all other parties, PDP, DC and Labour, and everybody will be there at the polling unit to see what the result pasted in the wall at the polling unit. Then who is going to later alter that in the process? Who is going to alter that, or who is going to say the manual is not what is being collated from the polling unit? I think
so there is room for, if we say who is going to do it, there are politicians that might want to do it, or there are polling agents that might want to do it. The valid point is still that there are mechanisms to follow through when such.
And if anybody, according to the law now, if a returning officer do that, there is a penalty for that.
For the returning officer, exactly. So that's one aspect of the reforms. I want you to generally react to it, because I actually pinpointed that part. When you were making a general comment about what you think about the reforms.
Thank you. You see, in life, there's something very important and imminent, that's change. Either we like it or not, there's going to be a reason for us to look at what we can, where we are, where we can move to. And I'll say the reform is a kind of change or some amendment made to what we have been having in the past. We might have diverse opinion, maybe from opposition and the ruling party, based on whose interest is being protected and how. APC, being a ruling party now, might see it as being comfortable for them, or being preparing. They must have prepared themselves for what they are trying to include into the law, so it will look more comfortable for their party running that exact law, because it's what you see. I will give an excuse. I will give an excuse now. You see, APC has been doing a kind of electronic registration of their party members. Even before signing the law, they have been working on that. They have been trying to yes. Now they made the law that in case consensus fail, you use direct primaries, and you have to have a database that the electronic way of, and most parties do not plan for this. That shows they have the premonition of what they are going to do, and they have been working towards that. I'll fought that. But at least that has come, they have done something new into our electoral, into our democracy, into our electoral system, where all party members now have a say. The other parties might not have prepared for that, and they are given short time from that when the law is signed to when they have to make a decision, submit them to INEC, and plan that for their primaries. That is, I fought APC for that, but at least we have something more, at least I would say some more advanced than what we have been having, where some party does not even know how many members they do have. They don't even have register of how many parties. I would say that to want anybody to come and forth.
Is that also not okay? Looking at the demography of Nigerians, and of course, you check, you go online to register, as a party member of a particular political party, and we know statistically what is obtaining when it comes to the literacy level in Nigeria, for instance. Is that not actually trying to remove some people, or do you see them actually capturing everybody in the registration?
No, there's room for visual registration, and also the physical registration party secretariat, maybe the designated party secretariat in every ward, where they can collate, compute, and input those names into the electronics. I don't know the kind of gadget they are using, but I think they introduced that. And if you are not captured in the system, you are not an eligible member of the political party. That's simple for APC. It's now for other parties to cash up. I don't know, maybe they are doing
so when you
something
also saw an aspect of the reform also talks about not belonging to two political parties at the same time.
And that is good.
And of course, you can only use technology to
define that exactly.
At the end of the day. So if party A has a register,
and we have people that have dual party
and of course you could
membership,
actually see whether that particular person belongs to
another party exactly.
At the same time. Is that really an APC agenda, really, when you look at it, holistically, or more like something that is good and new to the system, and of course advancing democracy in Nigeria?
I would say now we have a politician at the helm of affairs. The vice president is a politician. The Senate president is a politician.
Are you suggesting that those that have been coming before them are not really?
They are not really. They are not politicians. We have ex-military men, and we have 2 ex-military men, and a former civil servant that joined politics, and by time he grew to become the president. When you see, and these politicians have what they understand about how people maybe play the game around them, or how some people who want to, they will call it Olojumeji, want to have double-edged sword, be here and be here at the same time. And it's when you have a kind of a leader, when you might be thinking that when I have this opportunity, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. They are given the opportunity now, and they're trying to actualize what they might have been having nothing within them that I will change this. So I think it's an advancement into our democracy and politics as a whole.
We've been discussing with Mr. Alao Nuruddin, and of course the topic is still new electoral reforms and growth of Nigeria's democracy. And the program is Political Update. We'll take a break. When we come back, it will be time to join our second guest on the program. Please stay with us.
Fellow Nigerians, do you know that constituency projects are actually your projects? Do you know that constituency projects are funded by the federal government? Do you know that you can track release of constituency project funds for projects located in your constituency and follow up to know how they have been executed? Constituency projects happen because government does not want to leave any community out in development efforts. You have a responsibility to know what constituency project has been planned for your community, how much has been allocated for it, and whether value for money has been delivered. Take ownership of constituency projects located in your community. Protect them because they belong to you. Government knows about your needs and is planning for you. Government needs your help to ensure quality delivery. Know that constituency projects are actually your projects. Protect your funds out 022554272. This message is from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and the National Orientation Agency.
political update on Ogun State Television, and of course I told you earlier that we'll be joined by our second guest via Zoom. We have a political strategist, Bolaji Adiniji. Thank you so much for joining us on Political Update.
It's a pleasure. Good afternoon, my sister, and a pleasant afternoon to the listeners at home.
Of course, we are looking at the new electoral reforms and growth of Nigeria's democracy. I want to hear your view. There are people that believe that the new reforms that we have in our Electoral Act are actually reforms by the APC administration, basically to serve the interests of the APC. And of course, the critics have also said that this is why it's not really going to serve the interests of the masses at the end of the day. I don't know if you want to agree with that, or maybe you have something different to say on that.
Hello?
We can hear you now. You can go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, the last leg of the question, I couldn't pick the last...
I said there are critics who believe that the reform so far in our Electoral Act is majorly because the APC government have intention. But of course, there are people that said this is good for our democracy. We are making headway in the democracy we're practicing, especially this Fourth Republic. How do you react to that?
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. The reform that we had in the repeal enactment electoral act is amended to some of us who are pretty built in the political system feel that we have very positive reform that we have now. You will know that one of the challenges that I've always had is the desire to have an electoral process that is not just experience, in terms of the action, in terms of the result, in terms of process, but much more important, how we go about our leadership movement. Because the test is far more important than the result. And if you see what we have now, it is more focused on the test than even the result. Because some people, they are more focused on the result which deals with converting around electric transmission of results real time, which to some Nigerians, that will ensure we have elections that are credible in some of the outcomes. But more than the actual outcome of the election, we are talking about the process, how the political parties get to their country, how they emerge. Those are more credible things that we feel will help our democratic process more. What are some of these, in my opinion? First, look at the product of marriage, in terms of do delegate them. Because now, delegate system are a system whereby power to choose candidates, power to choose who will represent parties, who the players will be. But the possibility is in most cases, in the case of executive board, in most cases, who will just spend one their own preferences, just to all the candidates, but half of them have representatives, even different. But what this form has done is give the power to people through the direct system by every school member. Now, how to say is to determine who is the candidate of the place. That gives us a process that gives us candidates who are not popular candidates. And we go through the second aspect of that, which deals with the consensus arrangement. The guided consensus process is such that people that survive leaders of the political party and the various powers that in the political party now populate that to say, let us have better lead all of and high flag of the party. So they look at the program, they look at their perspective, their antecedents, their capacities and competence have to look at various variables and say, look, this is that man that can represent the interest of party. And whichever we look at, whether it is good, so in the end price, we would end up having candidates who are material. And look at the candidates that will take to the election and what kind of having two people in the hands of party. But when government will come home, we usually have candidates and students and individuals who does not have capacity competence to begin to lead some people like that. So that is the third reform that we have in the process that week is required.
Okay. My guest in the studio reacted to some of the specifics of the reforms in the current act, and of course you would discover that the one that got the attention of most Nigerians and of course the critics is largely the real-time transmission of electoral results, and of course having manual included in that clause. How do you react to the criticism so far generated, with that? And yes, we also talked about, my guest talked about the registration of members at the level of the political parties now. APC before that amendment has actually started registering their political parties, online registration of political parties. Is that not a disadvantage to other political parties that did not actually see that coming, before the act was actually assented to, the bill was assented to by the president?
But thank you. With regard to that particular process,
okay, I think the network is not really favoring us. Maybe we should come back to the studio to get the take of our guest, Mr. Laomiruddin. He has mentioned a couple of things, and because he's a politician, I was actually driving him because he's a member of the All Progressives Congress. I wanted to drive him through the different reforms so far. And of course, asking that particular question has maybe it's an advantage, disadvantage to some political parties. We talk about INEC. Majority of Nigerians believe INEC is going to perform magic. But what about the political gladiators? At the end of the day, INEC would prepare what is necessary. The Electoral Act is there. You see the practice we have in the ADC currently. INEC is trying to play by the new amendment, act, and of course there are a lot of political distractions when it comes to INEC playing and of course working as expected. What role should politicians be taking at this time? Are they not supposed to be driving this at the different levels of their political parties?
Oh, thank you very much for that question, because one of the problems we have in the country as of today is most of our problems are man-made, being human factor, the kind of people we are, because we don't actually play by the rules. That is who we are as a Nigerian, and I have to acknowledge that no matter how. And I'm hoping
I'm just imagining when that is going to change.
We are hoping that it will change. So though we have been advocating that maybe I will change and it will change, everyone will change, and we will see it as if we need this change from the top. Initially, I used to argue that we should have the change from the bottom up, from the masses, but now to see the change, we need the change to actually come from the stakeholders, from the real players.
How do you think that is going to be possible? The people that get to that position are largely the followers. I've always argued that it's more like we are not ready for the change we are demanding for. We are not prepared for it.
There's this Yoruba maxim that said, the fish actually rotting from the head. And when we see our leaders in succession trying to tame us towards a direction, I'm sure and I'm convinced that Nigerians will actually follow. You see, because there are certain things that new problems will has to be tackled with new solutions. But here in Nigeria, we just have leaders that are creating more problems instead of creating solutions.
That's why people argue that the recruitment process is part of the problem. Who are we electing as our political leaders? You know, what form of deliberateness have we put into who becomes our leaders? You know, you just mentioned in the course of your narrative that we have politicians at the ends of the affair right now.
And that is the fault of the stakeholders, the gladiators that choose candidates in their power. They nominate, they know who to drive, they know who to sell to the public. And we don't, when it comes to that level, our power is limited. Massive power is limited on to make decision on who becomes the candidate of an aspirant of a party, a candidate of a political party, most especially leading political parties. It is these leaders that will now think they are not, and the value they actually want in most of these candidates are not the core values, are not the needed values to drive the economy, to drive the public to actually see to the problems of the masses of the nation. It just is going to be loyal to us, who is going to make sure we win the election either anyhow, either by crooks or any way possible, or anything that he thinks he can do just to win the party, to win the mandate for our party. So, and maybe how he gets the money to even pursue that is not our concern. How he gets the popularity is not our concern. If he likes, he can engage totally and the rest of everything. So, and this has been what we are facing as a country, because now even you see the way our ruling party is trying to massage the ego of a certain minister just to do the dirty job in other political parties, to make sure that political party do not survive.
Do you have evidence of that?
Evidence of what? Because a sitting governor said it, that he was present when this minister. Now, when I said this, I didn't mention name. Rather, I didn't mention name, but I think I just want you to get the picture of what is happening in our political setting. That a certain governor, a certain sitting governor said he was at a meeting with a leader of a party and a leader of a country and a sitting minister, where they were discussing how they are going to do the dirty job that will actually make the party not have a resting hour, so they will not even be able to fight, or so they just want to decapitate the party, paralyze the party, and for them to have their way. Though it's part of the game. I want to put it that way, part of the game, based on what their data boys were saying, that is part of the game, and if it's your turn, don't play it that way. But that is not mature enough. That is not how to play the game.
Show maturity? The people that are actually aware of what is going on, because at the end of the day, you talk about the process.
This kind of approach.
When we talk oftentimes, you know, we have crisis, like I said, in the ADC currently, and of course, some have said that it's about, INEC has said it's about due process. If you do not follow due process, what do you expect? Is it magic that is going to happen? Is it you play on the emotions of the people at this critical time? You that are supposed to know better. You know, those are just the issues. But of course, I like the fact that you also alluded to that fact, that reality that our politicians are largely driving whatever it is we have.
They are not playing by the way. Look at what is happening in ADC too. That is same thing that is happening from the ruling party to how the ruling party is trying to suffocate other parties. Now, the ADC, those people that intend to have ADC as their platform, just want to suffocate the existing member in the party. They just, let's just have our way. You can go to. It's about interest, and that's
about who has the biggest power.
The biggest power, the biggest force. Exactly. So that is why, if what they are able to do then is just to have a kind of managed home, to manage it where okay, the chairman can stay, we can have a fight, because you are coming, though we know your capacity, we know your weight, and we know you are political juggernaut, so they have to respect that too. You want to use our platform, then let them have their say also.
So looking at the dynamics of the situation at hand right now, and of course what the new electoral reforms that actually, you know, the conversations that started immediately after it was assented to by the president. Are you optimistic that the game is going to be different in 2027?
The game is maybe I will have a mixed reaction on that.
Change or maybe challenging.
There's not going to be any challenge, there's not going to be any more challenge come 2027 because the opposition now are almost, I don't want to use the word dead. They are not dead. There's no opposition now. As we speak now, there's no existing opposition. When you go to state, there's no strong opposition. And I would say it's not even strong this time. They are under ICU. Intensive care, they just want to survive and they are trying, being suffocated. So there's no way when there's no strong opposition, when we don't have opposition at this level, grassroots level, where you don't have strong opposition at this grassroots level, how do you now compete at that president or senate level where you don't have House of Assembly members that are agitated? How many days to primary election now? We have not seen anybody competing as the governor in other opposition parties in Ogun State, none in Lagos, none in Oyo. And I have to tell you this, political has a split over. There is a way democracy split over influence that from Lagos they will say, this is where we are going in Lagos, then we want to follow, Oyo we want to follow. But now we are only having just a party now. It's not that somebody turned into a party system, but that is what is playing out.
So part of the reform also talks about pre-election litigation, the ones classified as pre-election matters, and that's post-election, to be determined by that. So you have issue of forgery controversy. There is a heated debate regarding the removal of certificate forgery as a valid ground for disqualification in the new act. And of course you ask, does this provision conflict with the 1999 constitution, and how might it alter the landscape of election petitions?
There's this way, I said that earlier, that there is this way politicians think, most especially when they are at the end of affairs, that don't let me shoot myself in the leg. And I want to be fair with those that drafted the reform, because they know what is playing out as in the Nigerian democracy, how they use certain issues to haunt themselves, how they can even forge something on your behalf, how they can make something real, and they will even work on it, so they use it to drag you down. And this woman is one of my reference now, this former minister for finance from Kenya Adeosun. You see how they drafted the case against the woman, and how since then she has been made. She doesn't even want to remember the ordeal, and that is how far.
I think she says in another way. When you go on social media, you see what she's doing there. But
I understand. In our political climate now, I think she's silent, and that is how far they can go in taking care of themselves through dirty ways when they want to deal with themselves. So now that the reform did not have it, and maybe say something else, it doesn't mean the 99 constitution has been maybe scratched or something. We have it in the 99 constitution, and let it be. Let that retain and let that remain. So
okay. They talked about party autonomy versus internal democracy. What you see right now, a few days ago I read a particular report saying that we have factions now in APC. Somebody came up to say that he's the chairman of APC. So the battle in APC national. Yes, there was a report to that effect in the course of the week, and I started laughing that these politicians, when are they going to allow the masses to actually enjoy the dividend of democracy? Looking at the reform so far, is it really going to change the way the competitiveness of the office, looking at the political parties and who they choose to represent them, and how governance will be at the center of every discussion, moving forward?
APC might use that reform to have their way better now, because of their preparedness towards that reform. Because when you have what you want to do and you know what you want to do, you can prepare for it. But it will actually help, as I said, in the long run, our political landscape. How? Because now we have a direct primary that brings all, I want to say, all registered members of a certain political party into the fore, that make them, they are now important, like how electorates are important to general elections. That is how party members are now important to primary elections in case the consensus fails. So that will actually help to foster this idea of just someone coming down from overseas and having the ticket overnight. We've had that in the past, where somebody will just, you see people aspiring like 4 or 5 and they have been spending
and the biggest cash,
and somebody will come overnight to just say this is our candidate, and if that fails, because that might come as a consensus based on who dictates yes, exactly. So but what will happen is now if they go to primary, that person is likely to fail. Because it might not be the general thinking or the general acceptable, somebody acceptable to the whole party member. So I would say in the long run it's going to help our democracy. And I usually say this anytime, that law are made for men, we are not made for law. There is room for us to amend whatever we made as a law, and we see it's not moving or it's not helping, we can change it at any time.
You know, part of the motive of the drafters of these reforms are largely that they also want to help INEC to reduce the election litigations, you know, post-election litigations that they mostly battle each time an election is over. Do you see anything that would actually make that, you know, to work this time around?
It will actually help INEC truly, because you know most of these election litigations and election petitions comes from disagreements from primaries. When they have disagreements from primaries, maybe some people took some candidates from the back door, maybe some delegates are not well elected or they are not part of the members, different stories you hear. But now, if it is all members that with the INEC now has the reform mandated political party to give their register to INEC, and INEC will have to supervise the election, the primary election, whenever they are having it. So I think it's fine. So INEC will monitor the primary election process just the way they are monitoring the general election. So that is fair, and that will actually reduce this bottleneck of election litigation.
You know, when I was talking about democracy, I talked about the dividend for the masses. With the way they are playing the games, the electoral umpire, you have the political gladiators, they most often doesn't really think about the masses. I don't know if moving forward, our democracy can be better practiced, because there is a common saying that the worst of democracy is still better than a military, and people are subjecting that to different debates. How that is not going to happen, how that is going to stand, is really what the people are after. What is the responsibility of leaders at all levels? Some have talked about also the fact that for any challenge in any local government or any ward, we make reference to the president. What are we practicing? Exactly why do we have to go to the president for everything? I was having a debate with some of my colleagues before this program, and something happened, you know, especially when they were talking about the killings that happened recently in Jos, and the president went, and of course the president said, yeah, just 10 minutes there was no electricity, you know, at the airport. And I asked, are the northern leaders or are subnational, are they poor really? Why is there no electricity at the airport? Is this still the president that will fix that? You know, there are different layers of questions that the people also need to subject themselves or subject the leaders. And how well are we doing? How are political analysts like you driving the message that it's not really going to be the president solving every problem? We should engage our leaders at all levels.
Okay. Let me say, first of all, right from the president or the presidency to the councillor seat or whatever, the public are not yet in the plan. Because developing a nation, developing people you have to draft a plan. You have to have your blueprint on how are we going to develop our populace, the general populace of the country. You know how many people you have, and you have to draft a kind of a pattern on how you want to maybe start to work on the poverty level, start to work on infrastructure level and everything. But you can see that now we are not yet in the plan of this current administration. And this is what we usually drive with our people, or we usually debate whenever the opportunity comes, that we are not yet in the plan. The reform is for how to maybe first of all reduce financial exposure. How to reduce financial exposures to politicians. We see the times to announce election, the times to from election to times to pick candidates has been adjusted. So there will be at least short time, so there won't be too much time to spend more money or trying to the rigorosity of campaign and rest. The reform is typically on how to protect politicians mainly, and to protect political parties mainly, not yet for the public. So we are now speaking on how to actually drive the economy to affect the populace, how to try to at least build people, human capital development. I think that's another ballgame entirely. And as I said, how we want to say it, whoever much is given, much is expected. The president has the largest share of whatever we have as our IGR, whatever we generate. You have a lot out of the allocation. The president has a lot. The president commands a lot of power. Though we know now the power has been, maybe the reform on the electricity bill has given the states power to generate, to transform, and to do whatever they think they can do in electricity. But where is the fund? Where is the fund? The presidency is trying to adjust how money will get to the local government.
When you say where is the fund, that's also a very big question.
I'm coming, madam.
Okay.
To the local government, the president at least did something through the attorney general and the judicial system of the country to at least mandate or even force the governors to. And we just had a meeting. The president and the governor, and everything just went down cool, like all this never, or the argument does not exist. And if you remember, they just had a meeting, and that's all, and that's the end. The public, we are not even asking that what happened at the meeting. Maybe some people said that there, some people said.
Is it not? Part of the argument is also that the people should direct their questions to the appropriate quarters. For the fact that I would once say that, I was exchanging ideas with somebody, and of course the person continued to, I don't know, his, girls with the president, but of course I said, okay, if for instance, like you said, the president has a larger share of whatever it is that we make as a country, it means that there are also some others with responsibility or duties to get from that. If they are getting it, are we not also expected to actually direct our questions to them? If we want the president to be transparent, do we want the governors to be transparent? Do we want the local government chairmen to be transparent? Are we bombarding them the way we are bombarding the president with questions about development, about what happens in my local government, what happens in my ward? Are we doing that really?
You are speaking from how it ought to be. But before you ask questions, first get your facts.
Okay.
Like how much money are we earning
as
a state? How much money is the government making from IGR? How much money is he getting from allocation, federal allocation? Then we can break that down to how much money is he spending on how do we call it? And all this salary and the rest of everything. Then we can think of how much money is left for whatever we think we have to do.
So when you look at our leaders,
yes,
do you see them as people that do not actually have resources to handle? the challenges of the people.
You are seeing that resources with them, maybe what they are building in their own personal houses or
no, I'm just saying, because I just want you to look at, you know,
wait, let me break it down. Let me break it down a bit so people will understand where I'm talking from. You see, if you look at the level of poverty in this country, you realize even if a state should start to at least give 10 billion in a month, it might not change anything in the next 5 years. I mean 10 billion a month. If you are using 10 billion in a month as maybe giving people loans, I'm not talking of incentive here, and if you look at the deficit in our infrastructure, and you look at the revenue in the state, you see if my state will have to take care of this waste, will have to take care of this roads, will have to take care of this electricity and water.
Saying that they now have enough money.
They now have enough money to pay salaries. We agree to that.
Okay.
Because no state is asking for loans to pay salary, or they are scampering around or trying to sweat before paying salary.
Well, some people believe that it's about priority.
And some will say it's even mismanagement. I won't dispute with anybody that says that, but the fact on ground is that Nigeria is what we hope to have been doing since maybe 1986, trying to bring people along, all inclusiveness, building people, human capital development, building people through education, through how do I call it, enlightenment and the rest. We are backsliding.
Are you hopeful that in the next administration, or maybe ahead of the 2027 election, Nigeria could eventually, because we have, you know, about 31 governors in the ruling side of the ruling party, and of course some said the president has a bigger plan of ensuring that they drive democracy to the grassroots level. With that, you know, that
there's no plan yet for the masses. That is my problem.
Okay.
Because as we speak now,
are you hopeful that there might be a plan after the 2027?
I'm hopeful, but if in the first year of the next administration, whoever becomes the president, and you do not see that plan, that blueprint, then forget about it.
Okay. We've been on Mr. Nuruddin talking about the new electoral reforms and growth of Nigeria's democracy. Citizens, we all have roles to play when it comes to what we have, the dividend of democracy. What questions are we asking our leaders? How are we participating in the democracy? Some decide to stay away. Staying away is not going to solve or change anything. It's actually going to compound the problems. It means that we all have responsibilities to be part of this democracy. And if we don't do anything about it, you don't also have the right to complain about what you get. So thank you so much, my guest.
Thank you, Madam.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you on Political Update. And yes, it will be another time on Political Update next week, of course, with another set of anchors. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. I remain Simiata Baru, and bye for now.